Well, welcome everyone to the Navigate session here this morning. I'm Brandon Lagana. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I am the Director of Planning and Assessment for Undergraduate Studies. And Navigate falls under my purview, and we have really two components of Navigate. Today we're going to be talking about Navigate Staff, which is in use for faculty and for academic advisors, as well as staff from diversity, equity, and inclusion, student affairs, and undergraduate studies. So folks from the Writers Workshop in the Department of English, Career Services, Honors, and all of you as faculty and advisors certainly should have access to Navigate if you're currently instructing or have access within MyNIU to Advisor Center. If you don't, stay on after. We'll make sure we get your information and make sure we can find out why the access is not working for you. I want to make sure that after this session you have tangible things that you can do using Navigate Staff. So to begin, hopefully everybody can hear the audio. I think we did that check, and the visual for the PowerPoint should be working just fine here. Tracy, thank you in advance for the heads up for any chats that come through. The other would be that as we go through today, there'll be two PDFs that I'll share both in the chat, but also at the end I'll send them out to all participants here today. So I will let you know at the point at which we're displaying the information which handouts would be helpful for support and guidance after this session. So we're going to jump right in with really thinking about Navigate Staff in three ways that would be most useful and tangible, I think, for faculty and for advisors. And that's reaching out to students, mainly using messaging within the Navigate system, but also making sure that you can see where your students are located in Navigate. You know how to find them in MyNIU. The same students are reflected in Navigate. Engaging students, and one of the pieces that we're using to engage students, and they love it, they've been using it, and so we're trying to get more and more students on board, and that's called Study Buddies. And that's going to be in the second part of Navigate, which is the student-facing portal called Navigate Student. So we have Navigate Staff, which we're going to show you the screens on today, and we have Navigate Student, which is the student web app and student web portal. So Study Buddies is one of those killer apps in terms of Navigate Student that students really love. I did hear a chat come in, so I'm going to finish off with the last bullet point and then pivot to the chat. And the third thing we're going to talk about today, which is the support element of Navigate, which is our referrals and alerts. And maybe many of you have already issued an ad hoc alert or have issued an alert through one of the enrollment campaigns or the alert campaigns, progress reports, either through me when I send those out or through the student athlete academic support. So let me pause there and Tracy, see what came in on the chat.
Really, it's just some greetings. So no questions or, ask for clarification yet.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And hello to everyone just joining us. Just went over the 3 bullet points for what we're going to chat about today, and these will be reiterated throughout the rest of the session. All right, so reaching out, engaging students, and support.
Sorry, Brandon, this is Ches. That was a chat message from me. You're sharing your screen right now, which has got the presenter view and then blocking the rest of the slides. Is it possible for you to share the slide view?
Oh, perfect. I'm glad that you said that. Stay tuned. And is that coming through properly now?
Beautiful.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. So the first thing that I wanted to share today is really the messaging component within Navigate Staff. And I do have a handout that I'll share with all of you at the end on some of the messaging components here, namely how many characters are contained in the text messaging feature and some of the suggestions for using the text messaging piece. But if you were to wonder, how do I go into logging into Navigate Staff, you can go through the quick links on the main webpage for NIU, quick links where you would check for My NIU. You'll see Navigate's listed there, or you can use the Go link at go.niu.edu/navigate. That will bring you to the landing page. And on the landing page, you'll see that there is a side for Navigate Student. And we have Navigate Staff. And this is where faculty, staff, and advisors will go to access Navigate Staff. So you can play along at home. If you are logged in to Navigate, you can go ahead and click Navigate Staff Access. So the first thing you're going to see when you log in is if you have more than one role. So if you teach, you're an advisor, and you're also enrolled in classes here for an advanced degree, you will see that you'll have one of those 3 roles that will be your primary landing page. So if you're wondering, well, how do I get to see the students in my class if you're seeing the students who are assigned to you as an advisor? This little triangle right next to the professor home view is what you would click on to get the drop-down button for staff home or student home, or advisor home, which would be staff. So from that view, you will see students in my courses, looking at the professor view. So the students in my courses are going to list all of the students and the courses with which they are assigned. There's also a screen that you can sort by course, and that will bring up the listing of students just for those specific courses in a specific term. Screenshots here are for fall of 2021, and I have redacted the names, so you'll see student name here that's representing a hyperlinked student name that when you would click on it, you would be able to go to the student's landing page to see some general information about students. So we're talking about messaging. And if you wanted to message all of your students to welcome them at the beginning of the term, or if you wanted to message all of your students in a particular class to let them know that you'll be meeting in a different location, you can select one or more of these checkboxes next to the students' names. Anyone who has a check mark next to their name, when you click Actions, and it brings up the Actions menu, when you select Send Message, that will be the group to whom you'll be sending an email or sending a text message, your choice, whichever one you want to use. Text messaging has been very good at getting students to respond. As you know, you've probably seen this, students aren't responding to email. One of the things that some have done is to send an email to the student's NIU account and follow that up with the text message that simply says, from your professor, please check your official NIU email for an important message from the class. And that tends to get a little bit more of a response from students. The other trick in that as well is just the, if you run out of space and you have 160 characters for a text, simply putting in PLS period respond. Please respond. It doesn't say to whom. It's been great for getting a student response. They'll respond to that message that they receive. So when the students get the text message to their device that's listed on their Navigate screen that comes in from My NIU, it will also come in as an email to the student. So they'll see it in 2 different ways, and it comes in to Navigate. So if you're wondering, will I miss it if I send it via text or via email? It's really hard to miss those things. If a student responds to your text, it's not going to come necessarily to your device. It'll come to Navigate, and it will also come into your email address. So the messaging feature really gives you those two flavors, sending a message by email or sending a message by text. So let me pause there for just a minute to see if there are any questions. There's a lot of information to unpack in this area. So yes, Taylor, go ahead. You're caller number 1.
I was wondering, say they text back, you get an email. If you respond to that email, does it go to their email or does it go to their text?
No, it'll go back to their text.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome. So I see that a lot of times where I'll reply to the email, and also too within Navigate, if you happen to be logged in, you'll see at the top of your screen that there is an envelope, and the envelope will right up in here will have a badge that will give you the number of messages that are unread, and by clicking on that, it will show you up to 9 messages that have been unread. And when you open the text within Navigate, it'll give you an option to reply via text or reply via email. But when you reply from Outlook, because that text reply from the student will come into Outlook, it'll go right to the text message. So that's a great question, Taylor. Thanks so much for asking. Absolutely. Also, too, there's an envelope icon. When you click on that, it'll open up a repository of messages that you have sent and you have received. And what I do is I look at those and scan them for numbers in parentheses next to a message. That number in a parenthesis means that there are additional threads to that email that was sent. So I scan student messaging lists and repositories to see if when an advisor sent a message, did anybody reply in terms of the student? And sometimes you'll see up to 4 messages. The message count stays as 1 for that message, even though there are multiple threads underneath of it. So it makes it real easy to be able to identify, any messages you have sent to wonder, did anybody reply to it? By looking for the parenthetical number next to the message thread, you can click into it and you can see all the messages that are a part of that. Again, you'll see those messages come to Outlook. So that's the messaging feature within Navigate Staff. And again, the messaging for texting is really what has been driving a lot of the usage here, because students are seeing text messages and responding to text messages in a far greater number than just simply to email. A couple other things about messaging. Within the text box for the message, you have mail merge codes that you can put into it. So if you're sending a message to multiple students, 2 things. The students will not see the others to whom you've sent that message. It will appear as the message is just going to that single student, even though you're sending it to 50. So if you wanted to personalize this and putting in the merge codes for the student's name, full name, last name, first name, you could do that and to personalize it. So that's another good reason why the personalization piece of email is something I prefer than sending out a message to a lot of people from Outlook, putting them all into blind copy, which, that's an instant flag for potential spam, and then it's just, Dear Husky. It's not as personalized as Dear Brandon. But for messaging, you can also attach files and you can CC folks on this as well. Again, that email will come into Outlook, responses will come in through Outlook, so you don't have to go through Navigate to check those messages. When you go in, you'll see there are 2 tabs. One's for sending an email. Right behind it is the Send Text tab, and that brings up this dialog box. Again, it's just going to go to that single student. Even if you've sent it to 50, it won't have everybody's number on there, so it'll look like it's just one-to-one. There are 160 max characters for text messages, which includes spaces and hyperlinks. This drives me nuts, but I do send, in some cases, if the Go link, go.niu.edu/navigate, puts me above the count for words, I'll send 2 text messages. One will be, much of the primary part of the message, and then the second will be find out more, go.niu.edu/navigate, or whatever that link would be. So you can do that if you run out of space, and it works pretty well to keep them within that 160 character range rather than sending, you know, more than one text message. We're trying to keep it down. But if you run into that issue, that's a strategy there that you can use. So that's messaging. Next, we're going to go on to the feature of Study Buddies, which is a great feature that students have been using. So we'll do a countdown of 3, 2, 1 here. So any questions about messaging, feel welcome to post them or turn on the mic. I'm going to just do a quick scan here of any texts that have come in that I've missed. Doesn't look like any, so we're off now to engage. The screen you're seeing here is a screen from the student side of Navigate Student. So I do see we have a question, so this is just the preview for engaging students. And Amber, go ahead. Looks like you have a question about adding students to a list.
Yeah, so I'm admin, I'm not faculty, so I don't have a set class in Navigate. So I need to add students to a list, I think, in order for them to pop up. How could I mass add students so that I'm not inputting ZIDs one at a time?
That is a great question, and there is a function to do that. And if you have the students' IDs with the preceding 0 and not the Z, and it's saved as a comma-separated values or a CSV file in Excel, you can import the list. There are instructions on how to do that. I'd be happy to show you if you wanted to stay on at the end. Could do a quick screen share to show you how to do that after the recording is stopped. But the mass add is something that if you've extracted that from MyNIU, you can upload that as a student list into Navigate.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. They're also on the website for go.niu.edu/navigate are 2 other links there on the left-hand side. One is for the training materials. Training materials have, you know, what they call job aids, and one of those is how to add students to a list. And the other are the sessions that we do, recurring sessions on Navigate. So we'll do one specifically on managing students, lists, and personal availability links. We do another one on issuing alerts and coordinated care. And we do another one on analytics and running reports in Navigate. Can you get the read and delivered receipts for sending emails in Navigate as you can in Outlook? No, unfortunately, you know, I don't even have open rates and read rates or click-through rates in Navigate. That's something I've been asking for and putting it into the what they call Idea portal, but that's not something that's currently there. But great question, and that's certainly a function I wish we had. There is a trick, and I'm going to put in the ZID at students.niu.edu. I'm typing in the chat here. And then I'm going to put just below that a very strange looking address. So the chat should come up and it's going to show the ZID, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 198, whatever that would be, at students.niu.edu, sends from Outlook to a student's official NIU email account. If you also include or you send it to the ZID at SSC, and that SSC stands for the Student Success Collaborative, SSC, which is the name and the company of the system prior to it being known as Navigate, or EAB, which is the company that runs that now. You send it to the ZID at ssc.niu.edu. It will send it to the student's Outlook account, and it will capture the email in Navigate. So you will see it on the student's communications page, and you will see it on your communications page as having sent it to the student. Now, having said that, if you should get a screen that says, that the message was undeliverable, I just have to tweak your account to make sure that your AID at NIU or at mail.niu is replaced by your alias, in my case, blagana@niu.edu. So occasionally when data come over from my NIU, it brings over the AID instead of the alias address. So we have to swap that out. But in any case, the zid@ssc.niu.edu sent from Outlook with the delivered receipts is a way around that. Yeah, you get the, all right, let me copy and paste your name here, and I will update that at the end on that one for the error for SSC address. Absolutely. Always happy to provide additional information. So I appreciate that question about the lists, which led to the additional question about the read receipts. Keep the questions coming. We're going to talk about engaging students through Navigate Student and the feature called Study Buddies. And so when we talk about Navigate Student, the screen you're seeing is what a student would see on their app and on the web. So at the beginning screen, we saw that you could access Navigate through Navigate Staff, which is what you'll use in your role as professors, admins, advisors, and faculty. Or you could also, if you're enrolled in classes here, log into Navigate Student using your ZID. Just a quick note about if you have multiple roles as a student and as an advisor or faculty member. What's really important to know is that your browser, whatever you're logged into for Outlook or MyNIU, so if you're logged in as a staff and you try to log in as a student, because we're using single sign-on, you would get an error, either of one or the other. A quick way around that is to simply open up an in-private browser or a alias browser or a totally different browser. So if you're in Google Chrome, which Navigate loves Google Chrome, you can open up Edge, Microsoft's browser. Some functionality doesn't quite work as well in Edge, so you might find some features that you could swear were in Google but don't appear in Edge. Just know that if you're wanting to switch between roles, the Google in-private browser is a great way to do that, and or open up another browser. But in any case, you're going to be coming to the student splash screen here, which you'll see Study Buddies is the link. Now, Study Buddies is a way to have students connect with one another by simply joining a group. They're going to see their list of courses in their particular section, just for that term. And they can click the join button, and it will send an email to all of the students in the class to say, I'm joining a group, starting a group, feel welcome to connect in. The students do not have to use Navigate to connect in terms of subsequent activity. So they can use any sort of WhatsApp system, Zoom, in-person meetings. So they can really meet in person or virtually however they wish. I thought this would be limiting. Students love this. In our student testing and in talking with students afterwards, what they said was, no, we just need a way that we can press a button and connect with one another rather than having to send around our phones and figure out, what our emails are and swapping emails that way. This makes it so much easier. Also, in the Department of Ed, the question came up, College of Ed, the question came up, could this be used for students to coordinate rides with one another for pre-service teaching, student teaching? And the answer is yes. So you could really find a whole lot of uses for this. It's just simply a way for students to raise their hand to one another and to connect, to join. So when they click the join button, it'll say, are you interested in joining? Student can click yes, and then you'll see that it'll say joined, waiting for other study buddies to become a part of that study buddy. And they can also back out if they don't want to do that or if they want to leave the group. But it is just simply a really simple feature that has really had incredible legs in terms of the way that students have been actually able to connect with one another. So we think about Navigate Student not as just download Navigate Student and use it, but really leading with what are the apps, the applications for the app that will really be important for students to know. And Study Buddies is one that has really gotten a lot of attention. So if you're teaching a course, or even if you're thinking about ways, if you have students in an organization that you want to get them engaged, or if you're like me and you have several students that you're mentoring, I encourage them to go ahead and join the study buddies to make sure that they can connect with students outside of class. So that's one example of engage. And it sounds like we've got a question that came in. Is there a way I can create a web link in my Blackboard course site that students can click to take them directly to their Navigate Study Buddy page? Not directly to Study Buddies. The only thing that goes directly to a particular part of Navigate would be the personal availability link. But you can give them the go.niu.edu/navigate website, and they can click on the link there. The other thing you can do is to give them the Navigate. Let me just make sure that this works in a web browser. niu.navigate.eab.com. Just open up a quick web browser. That's going to work. So I'll put this address through. This will get them directly to the app or directly to the website. So the niu.navigate.eab.com. So I love that question. So if you're putting that on a syllabus, you could have that link. Wouldn't be recognizable to students because it ends in a .com. So the go.niu.edu/navigate link is a little bit more recognizable and contains information from that landing page for students. But if you have a PDF syllabus and you have hyperlinks that are active in that, you could use the niu.navigate URL. Absolutely. Thanks for that question. Great way to incorporate that in. So we have another question coming in here. We have, does every course show up as available groups, or should the instructor register the course with Navigate? You don't have to do anything. Actually, it's based on the student's schedule. So if the student is registered for the course, it will appear as Study Buddies option. So you don't have to worry about requesting it like you have to request a course in Blackboard. It shows up automatically based on the student's schedule. Now that said, at the beginning of the term when students are dropping and adding courses, this particular part of Navigate student is refreshed once a day during the overnight data load from MyNIU. So you might have a situation in which a student has added a course at 10 a.m. in the morning, and by 2 p.m. in the afternoon, still doesn't see that course in Navigate student, and that's normal. They won't see that course for a Study Buddy option until the overnight data loads that next morning. This will refresh. So Tracy, I think letting students know about Study Buddies and suggesting students have found a lot of value in starting and participating in a group would be great. Yeah, and that's one of the messages that we do send out via text through a Marcom collaboration about utilizing Study Buddies, and academic advisors as well as faculty partners are really active, which is why I think this is an important part of the session today, is to have you as partners with students to let them know about it and to encourage them to use it. When I send an email out from the Navigate address, students do not know me. However, more are getting familiar with me with all of the outreach I do for alerts, which we'll talk about. But the closer the proximity and relationship the student has with the faculty member, the advisor, with the particular person working with them as a mentor or group, the better the response. So they're going to be familiar with you, they're going to be seeing your name, they'll see the email come in, they'll be more apt to respond. So absolutely. Great. Thanks for that, Tracy. Appreciate it. Looking at where we are at 10:30 here, generating good conversations, we'll go on to the next part on supporting students, which is the part about alerts and referrals. When we finish with that, we can go back and talk about any feature that we've showed today and ask any additional questions, and then I'll be on at the end to field additional questions about other features as well, or as follow-up. So the alerts and referrals process has been in place for several semesters at NIU and was just rebooted in a much better, more coherent way back in spring of last year. And when I say that is that maybe some of you over the years have issued alerts and heard absolutely nothing. And you'd be correct. There was a process in place that we have been honing and getting better and better at, and working with the academic advisors on campus and partners from peer institutions, finding out what has worked and what we wanted to do. We established a way in which we have academic advisors along with SAS counselors, student athlete academic support services, counselors in Chance, and staff members in the Center for Student Assistance and Husky Academic Support Center for tutoring and writing. So each time an alert is issued by a faculty member, we have a variety of people who are all tagged onto that alert if a student is a Chance student, is an honor student, is a SAS student, any one of those. So that it's the advisor plus a variety of support folks who are reaching out and coordinating with one another how they're doing that outreach. So the goal is to close that alert within 2 weeks. And the goal is to make sure that you know as an issuer of, number one, has outreach been made? And if so, has a student responded? And if not, it's good to know that too, that you've reached out, we've reached out, we haven't heard back. We don't hear back from about a third of the students so far with alerts. So about 34%. But we do hear back on 64% of the students who have an alert issued. So that's been up from what it was prior to spring of 22. Prior to that, our numbers were at about the mid 40s, probably low 40s, 42%. Student contact based on alert, that's up to 62%. So we're very pleased about improving that. Now we're really focused on finding ways to get the students to respond in some way, shape, or form. So that's been the focus on text messages and focus on a much closer proximity to the student. But within roughly about 2 weeks, you should hear something back about the student. And I sent out quite a few the other day that the students do have outreach. We make multiple attempts at outreach, but those alerts were starting to go in terms of the more than 2 weeks. So, and many of them had more than one alert. So we were closing out the multiple alerts to focus the outreach onto one that had the most salient pieces that were most notes, critical identifier for the alert. And we do that so that we will know, here are the people working with this student for this alert. We don't have 4 different contacts going to the same student because one saw this alert, the other saw that alert, depending on how they have those filtered. So it's really important when you're issuing an alert for a student to use one alert reason. And if you have more to report about a student, you can use the alert reason of multiple alerts to report, or use the one that's the most pressing issue and then put additional information into the notes. Notes don't have to be exhaustively detailed, and they shouldn't be. Just give us enough to know what we need in terms of reaching out to that student, what the student needs and what we need to know most immediately. So that's context, that's the background. The screens you're seeing show that from the same area we went to for sending an email, the actions menu, you would select the box next to the student's name and issue the alert option from the actions. And that will bring up a dialog box for issuing an alert. So I'm going to pause there before we go further. And Aaron, I think I saw a question come in from you. Go for it. Or a hand that was up.
His hand went up and then his hand went down, so you might be okay. But Aaron, feel free to bust in if you need to.
Blackboard exercise. I love it. Hi, Aaron. I see your hand now. Go for it. Not hearing any audio yet. I know that there is an audio function within Blackboard. So feel
Okay, can
welcome.
you
I'll
hear
keep
me
the.
now?
I can. Yes. Perfect.
I have a number of very basic questions. For one, I don't see where people are typing in chat questions. I'm looking around, I don't find it. But I guess that's not so important since you can hear me. Just
I
a very
can hear you.
basic question. I am logged in to navigate the way you said to do at the beginning, and your menu, what you've been going over this entire session, does not resemble what I see when I log in on Navigate.
All right.
I
At the
don't
end of the
know.
session, why don't we do a screen share so we can see what you're seeing, and then that way we can help guide you on that one. But just out of curiosity, at the top of your screen, do you see the word home with the triangle next to it?
Well, at the tab, it says Home and Navigate, but on the window itself, I have Navigate and can I screen share with you? How do I do that?
We'll do that at the end, and if we need to jump out to a Teams, we can do that. So I think that for right now, take a look at the screenshots that we have, and afterwards we'll make sure you have the access that you would need.
I have nothing that you've shown in this workshop in the last 30 minutes or so is on my screen when I log in to Navigate.
Yeah, and part of it is that we need to make sure that if you're listed as, the proper role for MyNIU, that it's reflected in Navigate. Some views are going to look a little different depending on your role, but if you're, using the professor role, which is what I have here, you might see some things in terms of the left-hand menu over here look very different because of my access use as an administrator for the app. But
well, I'm a professor, and I don't see study buddies. I didn't see. When I click on message, it doesn't. It's the message envelope. It's something different than what you were talking about. Sending a message that goes as a text to the student. I just don't see that anywhere here.
Okay, so let's look at the screen that we're showing right now. Let me go back one screen here. Do you see the list of the students that are assigned to your courses?
No.
Okay, so then let's do a screen share after this session and take a look to see what might be causing your view. And Caitlin, too, I see that you have that. Yours looks a little different. It has home, mail, calendar options, smaller side panel. That's going to be normal just because of the functionality that I have as the administrator for Navigate. But as long as you have, the mail option, the calendar option, and the students listed in the center, that's the functionality that's going to allow you to send messages and issue alerts. Anybody else at the end of this session who has the same issue as Aaron did with the not seeing the screens here that I've been sharing, please let me know. Aaron, I'm glad that you said about Study Buddies, because you're absolutely right. Study Buddies that I shared in just a moment ago is on the Navigate student app. So I'm sorry if that was not clear. This is not within Navigate staff. Engage is in the Navigate student app. So this is something to make you aware of that students are using, but you're not going to see that in the Navigate staff.
So they already know that, the students? We're not supposed to explain that to them?
No, it'd be great if you could. So yes, we have been messaging students. Advisors have been messaging students, and we've had information that has gone out in the overview videos, as well as a presentation to student government. But the key is that students might not have received that message in one of those other methods, and so it's always good to either reinforce it or introduce it to the students that are in your classes.
But we can't see it ourselves. We just have to say, check out Study Buddies. Look at your menu, you'll find it.
Right. Log into Navigate Student and click on Study
Okay.
Buddies. Absolutely. Great question. Great question. So going back and looking at the actions, when you click the button here for the number of students, you can do one at a time, or if you have a group of students who are not submitting assignments or not attending class, you can select those students by selecting the checkboxes, same as you did for sending a message, clicking on Actions, and in the drop-down for Actions, you can click the Issue Alert button. When you do that, it'll bring up a dialog box in which you can select an alert reason from a list of drop-down messages, and you can also select a specific class from the drop-down as well. The drop-down messages include some of these options here. There are several more, but essentially they are the topics that advisors have identified as being the most useful to know what's going on immediately, rather than having one for just generic academic advising, knowing that this is a student who's at risk of failing the course because they're not submitting assignments or they have poor attendance, that they have financial aid needs that you're aware of, or food insecurity. And so this is why we call them alerts and referrals, because a student doesn't have to be failing a class to have an alert. A student could let you know of a need that they have. And where do you go with that? Well, the issuing a referral for financial aid questions or for food insecurity would be really important. And this is the multiple alerts and concerns to report I was talking about earlier, in which you have the option for students to be able to have an alert that's going to have multiple things included in that. So you would type your additional comments in this box here, select the class. It's going to show the class that you teach. So whichever one for that student is the class that you're issuing that alert for, you'll submit that, and that starts the process. So let's put all the pieces together here. As a faculty member, you have made outreach to the student. You've emailed them at the beginning of the semester. Somebody's not showing up to class. You followed up. Maybe they were there once or twice, but then dropped off, and they haven't responded to you, and you're concerned. So after you've made your initial outreach, because remember that proximity is really important, they're going to respond to you, they're going to know you, and if they don't, get no response from student, then you can issue the alert. What happens when you issue the alert is that the advisor, as well as the others from other support areas, such as Center for Student Assistance, the Chance Program counselor if the student's a Chance student, honors if they're an honors student, as well as student athlete academic support, they'll reach out to the students, and they too will make multiple attempts through different methods: text, email, phone call. Now, if after 2 weeks, they were able to get to the student, they were able to meet with the student withdrew from a course, or the student has responded in some way, we're going to close out the alert, and we're going to have an alert acknowledgement reason for any number of these situations. The student has responded, or the student responded and said, no, I'm good, I don't need any assistance. Or the student could not be reached, or the student did not respond to the outreach. So again, we're trying to make sure that you know what's happening or still in progress. We also will have cases in which the initial need was closed out, but we're going to refer that to the Center for Student Assistance for additional support. So if you see that closed out, it means that the initial issue has been addressed or has begun to be addressed. Might not be completely taken care of yet, but you as the issuer need to know that something has been done or something is in progress, rather than not hearing anything. And of course, student outreach is initiated, as well as students received assistance. So that'll give you a sense of what's happening with the issues. All right, Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about how much information the advisors are able to share after they reach out to a student. So as an example, I gave an exam yesterday, and I had several students who didn't show up, and I didn't hear from them that they weren't going to be there. So I issued alerts and said, if you have a compelling reason that you missed the exam, I'm willing to give you a makeup, but you need to contact me. I didn't hear from the students. I issued an alert, and the response that I got back from this process was the case closed, student received assistance. So that gives me comfort that the advisors reached out, but I still don't have any idea what's going on with those students. So I'm not sure what to do with that information. So, should I reach out to the advisor, or, what do I do at that point? I don't have any more information than I had before about what's going on with the student.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the limitations on the alert process, is that the first part is there is an option when we close alerts that we can type a message to the person who issued it and include that message when it goes on the closed part. So we've been encouraging advisors to do that so that you have a little bit more to know what's going on. But sometimes, the situation might be personal and there isn't going to be information shared. But you're still welcome, because you have that relationship in the class with the student. If you see them, or you could reach out and say, hey, I heard, I know your advisor reached out to you. How can I help, or will I see you in class the next way? Some of the information, is not necessarily easily shared through the system. But yes, like you said, it gives you the peace of mind to know that the student received assistance. It's up to the advisor to how much they're going to share back. And if you still want to know more, you could follow up with the student, or yes, you can follow up with the advisor as well. Say, hey, thank you so much for doing that. Anything I need to know, or what was the general sense of that outreach? Certainly you have the ability to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Linda. And for those that we don't hear from the student at all, you'll see a message that comes in from me, something along the lines of, we made the outreach, and like you, we didn't hear back. And I always want to know, in between the time that you issued the alert and the time that, we're closing it because we haven't heard, have you noticed any change in the students' attendance, behaviors, or performance? And, for a great number of those, the answer is no, that I see and hear back from faculty members, and occasionally we do. There's a strong relationship between those that we actually hear have followed up with faculty and those students who are residential on campus, and that I reach out to Lauren Tessa Warner in housing to say, if this student is a residential student, could you knock on a door and let them know that their psych professor or their chemistry professor is trying to reach them, and they need to reply. Whatever Lauren and her staff is doing, it's been fantastic, because we've had students respond. We've had about 24 that way, just in the past semester back in spring. So, some signs of hope there, but we're trying to catch students before they fall through the cracks, and you're on the front line of that. So issuing those alerts, and sometimes we don't know much more than you did, and we have to continue following up. So just because a case is closed doesn't mean the issue is completely taken care of or dispatched with. It just simply means that the students received assistance, or might continually be receiving assistance, and that we're working with them. But because you issued that alert within 2 weeks or so, we want to make sure that you're hearing something back. Might not be exactly the most detailed explanation, but it's the beginning stages of closing that loop. So I'm displaying the screen again, just as a summary of where to go on the list of students, checking the box, going to actions, and clicking issuing alert. This is the last slide in the session. So I will close out with the recap on what we covered here today, and take any questions and stay on for as long as folks have questions, needs, or for those who, like Aaron, had a different view, maybe we can get the recording switched off and then have folks do some screen sharing so we can walk you through. And I can also take a look here through my screen view. Tracy, it looks like the question came in about where the recording is going to be.
Yeah, I will send a follow-up to everyone and include the link to the to the recording. We also post those recordings to our YouTube channel. We may not do this, and Brandon, maybe this is something you and I should talk about. If we feel like this is maybe too personal, then we may not put it out on the YouTube channel. But that is one of the reasons why, we've kind of masked students' names, and we really don't want to kind of put things out there until we turn the recording off.
Yeah, and we do have a video that's on the Navigate site somewhere. I have to find where that is, but it's a help video on issuing alerts. So maybe when we do the video, we can adjust that, because I did see there was a student name that popped up that didn't get masked in one of the dialog boxes. However, the video, I think, is much better for an explanation of how to issue a step-by-step for issuing alerts, which today this was more 30,000 foot overview. Here's where to go to do it, but the video and the help guide for that is far more directed in that way. So I'll put that in the link here as well, so that folks will have that. Share files, we grab them off my computer. One's a PDF file for messaging, the other is the faculty guide for issuing alerts. And those are being uploaded now. And I'll put the link to the video for issuing alerts in here as well. And we'll follow up with an email with these materials, so you don't have to try and search for them later, but if you wanted to grab them now, please feel welcome to do that.
Shall I turn the recording off now?
Sure, go ahead.